British Columbia Premier David Eby was in Surrey for a skilled trades announcement when he turned to the trade war reshaping North America. The province's forest sector faces new U.S. tariffs that Eby says are designed not to protect American workers, but to redirect lumber imports toward Russia and Europe. His next words would reframe Canada's entire relationship with its southern neighbor.
It's an impressive piece of work, and we need it open as soon as possible for all those grads from the brand new Surrey Medical School that it has their first intake this September. I'm a little charged up because I'm driving into Cloverdale here today. On the way to KPU, I saw the new Surrey Langley SkyTrain well under construction. We drove past the beautiful Cloverdale ice rinks funded in part by the Building Communities Fund from the province of British Columbia. And now here at the hospital, lots of exciting things happening here in Surrey. And one more exciting announcement about what's underway south of Fraser here with our friends at KPU. I want to congratulate and thank them on today's important announcement. Today's announcement takes place against a backdrop of a really challenging time for the world and for Canada and for British Columbia. Our longtime trading partner, the United States, has a leader that is committed to attacking core industries in British Columbia, specifically our forest sector and our forest products sector, for reasons unknown, in order to increase imports of softwood from Russia and Europe. It is an unusual and bizarre strategy, but is not unique to British Columbia. It's something that's being faced by jurisdictions around the world. For Canada, I think as Canadians, we've recognized that this moment is one, whether it's the impacts of the trade war President Trump has unleashed on us, or the actual war that he has unleashed on Iran that's driving up costs for people around the world and created uncertainty around energy supply and supply chains. For us as Canadians, for us as British Columbians, now is the moment to ensure that we do what previous generations talked about but never took the steps to do, which was to decrease our dependence on the United States, to build up our province and build up our country and build up our people, using the advantages that Canada has, that our province has, to be able to have strong relationships and diversified relationships around the world. That is the context of today's announcement. That is the crucial work that we're doing, whether it's across Canada, getting rid of trade barriers so we can trade with each other as easily as we trade with the United States, our overseas trade missions, and our work to drive investment here at home in Canada and in British Columbia. On that front, we have made some great strides. $88 billion in investments in the next 24 months coming to final investment decision in British Columbia. These are significant investments in energy, whether it's electricity or low emission LNG, around the logistics and trade infrastructure of our province, including massive expansions in our ports so that we can facilitate getting Canadian goods to international markets. That is incredibly exciting news. And even just this week, we had a multi-billion-dollar announcement from Fortis in the Tilbury LNG fueling facility in Richmond. That is going to provide a significant number of jobs in construction, reduce emissions from the shipping sector in British Columbia, and ensure that our ports remain competitive as ships around the world transition to LNG away from diesel and bunker fuel. All fantastic news, all very exciting, but we need the people to benefit here in British Columbia from those projects. And how do we do that? We need to make sure they have the skills and the ability to take the jobs that are being created. These projects create revenue for the provincial government to pay for public services, but they also create jobs for British Columbians. But they're jobs for British Columbians that depend on them having the skills to be able to take them. We have a challenge with youth unemployment in this country and in British Columbia. When you have a group of people that are looking for jobs, unable to find them, and a group of employers looking for skilled people, the obvious answer is to provide those folks, those young people who are looking for jobs, with the skilled trades training that they need to take those jobs. And that's what today's announcement is about. Today, we are announcing 460 new trades training places here at KPU Surrey that will support young people in taking these jobs that are being created through the government's efforts to drive investment in British Columbia. That means that every year, 460 more people will be graduating with the skills that they need to take high-paying jobs that are going to support them and their families and a vibrant life here in British Columbia. It is exciting work, and I want to thank our friends at KPU for being able to move quickly. We announced the $250 million in the budget to fund these spaces, and we turned to the post-secondary sector and said, how many spaces can you bring on and how quickly? KPU, and specifically KPU Surrey, was able to bring on 460 spaces this academic year to move people from wait lists into classrooms to
The question of how Canada should respond to Trump's tariffs has divided provincial leaders. While some premiers have signaled flexibility toward the White House, British Columbia has maintained a ban on American alcohol, retaliatory pressure that Eby says has registered with the Trump administration. A reporter's question about Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's different posture was about to put Eby sharply on record.
Today with Rob Buffum from CTV. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my question, Premier. I just wanted to get your reaction coming out of last week's meeting with all the premiers. You know, we've heard since that Danielle Smith in Alberta has said she's not going to look at, removing alcohol from Alberta's shelves, a measure that you've taken and Doug Ford and many other premiers, seemingly with some success, because it certainly got the attention of Donald Trump and his administration. What's your reaction? Because we heard there's this really unified Team Canada approach to the upcoming tariffs, yet we're not really seeing that in action. Are you concerned that, for example, you and Danielle Smith are not on the same page?
I think that one of the strengths of our approach as premiers has been that across the country, there have been slightly different levels of engagement with the U.S. administration. It creates a channel for communication. It creates the opportunity for advocacy. And that, while unplanned, has been one of the benefits of different approaches. I'll say this for British Columbia. While our forest families are under direct attack by the president, who has imposed draconian tariffs on our wood products in order to apparently facilitate imports to the United States from Russia and Europe instead of from Canada, we will never put U.S. alcohol back on the shelves. And I think that approach for British Columbia is the right approach. I understand the Conservatives had their quiet meeting with the ambassador of the United States and have come out and said that we should get rid of the only leverage that appears to be catching the attention of the president by putting U.S. alcohol back on the shelves. I couldn't disagree more. I think that would sell out forest families for nothing. It is a disgraceful approach for British Columbia. And I don't understand the logic of it, except through the lens of the culture war that the Conservatives seem totally committed to over all other things. We'll stand strong for British Columbia families, for forest families, for people who work in our wood products sector. And we're going to insist that those sectors be part of any final agreement with the United States and continue to support the crucial work being done by the federal government for a broad trade agreement with the United States. And I hope that we'll be able to get there. In the meantime, we've got to diversify and ensure that we're less dependent on the U.S., and that's what today's announcement is about.
And Rob, do you have a follow-up?
I do. It's kind of a two-parter. I'm hoping you can weigh in, first of all, on the Angus Reid poll out last week that showed your approval rating had declined from the spring. I think it was at 27%, an approval rating number that came out subsequent to that agreement you had where you protected the oil tanker ban and got, billions of dollars for the Massey Tunnel. Were you surprised that your approval rating had declined following that agreement? And if you're able to weigh in on reports I've seen this morning and yesterday about the Conservative Party instructing its caucus or advising them to refer to First Nations people not as First Nations, but as Indigenous or Indian.
Yeah, Rob, I guess I wouldn't have constructed the poll the way the Angus Reid people did. That was not a pipeline agreement with the federal government. That was a $20 billion historic agreement for BC projects, including our ports, mines, crucial infrastructure like the Massey Tunnel, that is going to deliver benefits to British Columbians and finally recognizes BC's crucial role in driving the Canadian economy. I'm standing in front of the Minister of Mines. I got a text message this morning from the Premier of New Brunswick, who was sharing with me a photograph of a load of structural steel for the Escalate Creek mine
The tariff debate has opened a wider political argument about British Columbia's future direction. Eby's government points to a string of investments, hospitals, transit, trades training, and incoming U.S. health workers as evidence of a building agenda. But the BC Conservatives have offered a sharply different set of priorities. What Eby says that difference actually looks like, stated plainly, is about to land.
A different result. Now, on the second part of your question, Rob, and I appreciate the opportunity to weigh in on this, there are two different proposals for the direction of our province that are emerging. For our piece, as the government of British Columbia, you see it in the multi-billion-dollar investment that was just announced by Fortis in Richmond. You see it in today's trades training announcement. You see it in the fact that British Columbia now has more doctors per capita than any province in Canada, more family doctors per capita than any province in Canada, that we're recruiting hundreds of American healthcare workers. The rents are falling faster here than anywhere else in the country, that we're building or expanding 38 hospitals, including the beautiful new hospital behind us, the Surrey Langley SkyTrain. We are building our province for the next generation. That's one approach. The other approach is that the big issue of our time is the culture war, and that all of our attention should be going into the culture war. That we, from the perspective of the BC Conservatives, that whether we call First Nations people in this province First Nations or Indians is the number one concern. This is the product of a leader of the Conservatives, Carrie Lynn Findlay, who in her leadership campaign had as a central issue that she wanted to repeal the Human Rights Code in British Columbia, but neglected to explain how she was going to recruit more doctors and deliver more affordable housing in our province. If you think that American-style culture wars, that calling First Nations people Indians, repealing the Human Rights Code is going to ensure prosperity for your kids and deliver the kind of province that you want, you now have a party to vote for, the BC Conservatives. But if you think that training people for the jobs and investment that you're bringing in partnership with First Nations, in partnership with communities across the province, diversifying away from the United States instead of engaging in secret and quiet meetings with the ambassador and giving away all our leverage, if you think that we should be building our province, then you have a party, and that's the BC NDP. I think it's a very compelling choice for British Columbians. I don't doubt that there are people out there who think that the BC Human Rights Code repeal is the number one issue that any leader should be thinking about right now. But they are a very small minority. The vast majority.
British Columbia's premier has drawn a clear battle line: hold pressure on Washington, invest at home, and reject what he calls an American-style culture war agenda. With U.S. tariffs still in place and no deal on softwood lumber, the standoff between Canada and the Trump administration is far from over. This is the D.C. brief.